Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Happy Wednesday to all of you. I'm so glad that you are here with me today. I've got a fun project for you guys. I think you guys are really going to love today's project because it's easy, it's trendy, it's versatile. It's just a really great project that once you kind of learn how to make the bird's nest, then it kind of opens up all of these other possibilities. So we're going to make a pendant today, but once you learn how to make the pendant, you're able to turn this into the top of a ring. You can make earrings out of it. You can make really small ones for charms. You can make great big huge ones for home decor. So there's a lot of versatility in just this one little easy project, and you can change up the beads and really kind of customize it and personalize it. So I think you guys are going to enjoy this one. It is really, really fun and really easy to do. So I don't imagine we're going to be here for a very long time, but I definitely want to be sure that you guys get this one down. So let's get started, shall we? I'm going to turn you guys around and we will get right down to business here. All right, so we just need some basics for today's project. You're not going to need a whole lot. You do want to go ahead and pick out what kind of beads you want to use. And of course, at Michael's, there is a huge variety. So you're not going to have any problems, you know, finding one that speaks to you. I really like to use gemstone beads for my bird's nest projects. Alternately, I also like to use pearls, but these little, they're called Siderolite. They're 8mm beads. They are blue, but they also have that kind of brown through them. I don't know. They just kind of reminded me of a bird's egg. And I know robin's eggs are blue. There are some other blue eggs out there in the world, but you don't have to feel like this is all you're limited to. You can use absolutely anything. And because pearls are going to be so hot for spring and summer, you definitely can use pearls for this as well. Alternately, you can use different colored. So I used all three of the exact same bead, but if you wanted to, you could make this like a Mother's Day pendant. You could make this a grandmother's pendant, and you could do an egg in different colors to represent, you know, the kids or the grandkids, which is really cool too. So a lot of different things that you can do, and it's going to change the look of your little bird's nest. So pick out your beads. I'm using some 8mm beads for my project, and then we're going to be using some 22 gauge artistic wire. Now, I'm choosing artistic wire over German style wire. A lot of you guys who follow me on Facebook, or if you have been with me for other projects here, you know that I use a lot of German style wire for my projects when I'm doing wire. However, the artistic wire is a dead soft wire. So this is nice and soft and malleable, which makes it just a little bit easier to create that bird's nest shape. I feel like you're not going to struggle nearly as much. So I definitely recommend the artistic wire over any of the others. 22 gauge is a pretty good gauge for this. That's going to give you a pendant that looks very similar to the sample that I have. But if you wanted to go all the way down to the 24 gauge, you definitely can use the 24 as well. Going any bigger or thicker in gauge, you know, 20 gauge, it tends to get a little bulky on you. So if you're going to go up in gauge, I definitely recommend going up in your bead size. So if you're going to use like a 20 gauge wire, I would probably go all the way up to maybe a 9 or a 10mm bead instead of the 8mm, because you don't want your beads to get completely lost in the pendant itself. As for tools, you just need your standard tools, some chain nose pliers, your round nose pliers, definitely, and you're going to need a cutter tool and probably a ruler. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to cut about 36 inches of the 22 gauge artistic wire. And I'm using silver, but you can use any color that you want. You really can change this up a lot of different ways. And 36 inches is a good beginner length for this. You may or may not use all 36 inches, or you may find that after you've made this pendant once or twice that you want to make an adjustment in your length. A shorter length is obviously going to give you a smaller nest, or more is going to give you kind of a thicker nest. So you're going to be able to make all of those adjustments after you make your initial kind of beginner piece. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to thread on, I used 3 for my pendant, which is a good beginner number because we're going to kind of make a triangle. You can use up to, 6 of these beads, but just keep in mind it's going to make a larger pendant. 3 is a good one to kind of start with. If you want to work directly off the spool, you absolutely can do that. It may be easier for you to do it that way. Then you don't really have to make any measuring, but I did cut 36 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to thread on 3 of my beads here. And I'm just going to kind of hold these towards the bottom of my wire. I don't want to let those fall or anything because the other end of our wire is not attached to anything. What I want to do is I want to come in. You can do this with your chain nose pliers or your round nose pliers. It really makes no difference, but you want to create a little hook in your wire at the very, very end. And I'm talking a very, very small hook because we want this to kind of disappear. Okay, so chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, whichever is easier for you to just make a little hook shape here. And that's going to kind of hold our beads into place so they don't fall off of this end, but we need to go ahead and form these into our little triangle shape. And I'm just very, very slowly kind of coaxing the beads into a little triangle. And what I want to do is I want to hook this little hook that we made. In fact, I'm going to even turn it so that I can hook it onto the long end of the wire. Once I've hooked it, then I really can kind of pull everything into this nice little triangle shape. Okay, just like that. And you can, the artistic wire is perfect for that because you're going to need to be able to kind of adjust and squeeze. And, I don't want a ton of wire showing. But once you kind of get it in that initial little triangle shape, then you want to come back here to the back or wherever your hook is, and you just want to close it. So if you just pinch it closed, it doesn't need to be a perfect loop or anything. Nobody's even going to see that. Eventually that's going to just disappear into the design. Okay. So we have our beads hooked in, right, to our little shape. And again, I'm just kind of pulling on the wire. All right, now I'm going to start wrapping around the outside of these beads. And we're just going to wrap around and around and around until we leave ourselves a tail. So we're going to get down to probably about 12 inches for a tail. Really just kind of, that's a good amount to work with, but we're just going to take this and just very slowly, right? Because we want to be particular with our wire. Now we don't want it to look, we want it to be organic, right? Because it's a bird's nest. So it definitely is going to have that organic feel to it, but we do want to be kind of particular about where we're placing that wire. We want to be sure that we're staying to the sides of the beads and also kind of to the back a little bit. Because it is a nest. These beads need to look like they're actually sitting inside, not on top of, but to the inside of this. So we've got to build a base around the beads, but also kind of build out 3-dimensionally from the sides of the beads as well. Okay, so you're just going to keep wrapping around here. And if you wanted to, you could, I'm going and making mine just kind of straight wraps around, but you can actually crinkle your wire up and give it even more of an organic feel if you wanted to, right? You could make bends and crinkles and creases. You can come in with your pliers and, make little places in the wire so that it actually looks more like a nest. It's really up to you. You've got a lot of options here. Right, so we're just going to keep going around and around, and you'll see how we're kind of building up that outer edge. And now at this point, you don't even notice that we had that hook in there, right? You never notice that that's there at all. And you still have the ability, because the artistic wire is nice and soft, to really manipulate the wire. So if it's not placed where you want it, you can move it around with your fingers, which is great. Okay, so I'm just going around and around. And again, you can stop wherever you want. You don't have to use all 36 inches, okay? But you do want to stop at a point where you do have at least 12 inches because we're going to need that for some of our wire wrapping. All right, so I have a little over 12 inches for my tail here. I'm going to go around one more time. Okay. All right, so now I'm ready to kind of bundle all of this together. And this is going to take some wire wrapping, but it is easy wire wrapping and it doesn't have to be perfect because again, it's a bird's nest. So it's very, very organic. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to stop with my wire wrapping kind of between two beads. So you can see like my wire is right up here between these two guys. It doesn't matter if you go to the inside or to the outside, okay? Meaning you can come up from the bottom or you can go down through the front, makes no difference. I'm actually going to come up from the bottom. I'm going to take my tail of my wire and I'm going up, right? And then I am very, very carefully going to wrap that wire. I've pulled out all of the slack. I'm going to wrap around and I want to bundle around those wires about 3 times. Okay. So I'm going to wrap around. So again, I've gone around once. I'm going to come up a second time. And I'm pulling tight because I want this wire to really hold everything together. Okay, so I'm going to wrap around a few times, just coming from the inside. Okay, and I'm going to go around one more time. And I'm not super concerned with whether or not these are perfect wraps. So mine are kind of overlapping. I'm okay with all of that, right? I don't think any bird out there is going to be very particular about it. If it bugs you though, you certainly can undo, right? And you can rewrap if you need to. I'm going to leave mine just like it is. Okay, so I've made 3 wraps. Now I'm going to just guide the wire around the outer edge until I come to the spot between these two. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come up between those 2 beads with my wire. Okay. And again, just kind of adjusting with my fingers here. Okay. And I'm going to go a second time. And there's 2. I'm going to go one more time. All right, and there's 3. So I am kind of keeping them consistent as far as like there's 3 here and there's going to be 3 here. Now the next little set of wire wraps that we do, there may be a couple more extra wraps and I'll show you why, because this is where we're actually going to create a little loop. So we're going to guide our wire up to that spot again between these 3 beads. So this is going to be our 3rd and final bundle here. And I'm going to wrap around twice, just like what we've been doing. Okay. So pulling the wire, there's 1. Here's number 2. Okay. Now for this one, for my next go around, actually, let's go one more time, just to make it a full 2 wraps. Okay. So now for our next wrap, I'm actually going to bring in my round nose pliers. What I want to do though, is I want to take the wire and kind of bend it over like we're about to go all the way around, right? But we haven't really. So I'm just kind of laying it against the curve of the wire. Now I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers and I want to bend the wire back towards the wraps that we just made. Okay. And you're also going to kind of need to decide like how big you want your loop to be. I'm kind of in the middle of the round nose pliers. I'm grabbing a hold of that wire. Okay, so it's running through the barrel of the pliers out towards the back. And when I wrap around the top barrel of the pliers, I'm coming back towards the front of the pendant. And then I'm going to roll my pliers to move them. So I was in this position. This is very much just like a wrapped loop. I was in this position. I need to be able to take my wire back out this direction, but I can't because the bottom barrel of the pliers is in the way. So I'm just going to roll the pliers this way and take the wire out the back. Okay. And now I want to take this, I'm going to switch hands. I'm actually going to wrap around this loop a couple of times, just like a regular wrapped loop. So you can go around 3 times if you want to, however many times that you need, right? And straighten up my loop a little bit because it is a little, he's leaning back a little bit. So I do just want to take my pliers and kind of guide him to more of a standing up position. And my wire wrap has ended like coming towards the back. So I just want to pick back up where I was going with my wire wraps. And it's just going to kind of make the whole little wire wrap here seamless. Okay, so I'm going to go around again and I'm going to go twice. So I've got 2 wire wraps, a wrap with my loop, and then 2 wire wraps. And then we're just going to trim that off. Okay. Can squeeze your wire wraps together with your pliers if you need to. Okay. And there we've got our wraps. Now, depending on whether or not you want your loop to be facing side to side and you're going to thread this directly onto a piece of chain, you can leave it this direction, or you can grab a hold of it and turn it this way and use a jump ring, right, as your attachment to your chain. But I'm not even going to use any extra hardware for this. So I want to keep mine facing side to side and just thread my chain directly through that. So I know it's going to be nice and secure. Also want to come to the back here and trim off the tail of our pendant. And I do leave myself a little bit of a tail. You can see it's kind of sticking up, but now I'm going to come in with my pliers and really kind of pinch it down and lay it up against the pendant as much as possible. I don't want it to be sticking out by any means, right? Want to be sure that that's not going to get hung on your clothing. So definitely run your finger across it and make sure that it's good to go. And that's, guys, that's pretty much it. So we're just going to take a piece of chain. Okay, I've got a piece of chain here, and you can make this as decorative or as plain as you want to. I'm just going to thread mine on directly to a piece of really thin chain and add some hardware to the end here, and I've got a necklace. However, you can build an entire necklace around this. This can be your focal for a beaded necklace, right? You can, you can do just a straight stringing project if you want to and use more of these beads. You can add this to a charm bracelet, is pretty small. And if you use smaller beads, you can make it even smaller. You could do several of them on one necklace, and you definitely don't have to use chain if you don't want to. You can absolutely use leather or any other kind of cord material. I like it on the chain because it really matches the wire, and I want the bird's nest to be the focal, but it is totally up to you. Completely up to you. So I'm just going to open a jump ring. I've got a jump ring from my little Beadalon Findings Variety Pack here. It has my has all my jump rings and some clasps in it. So it's got everything that I need. I'm going to use 2 pairs of pliers holding that jump ring so that the opening is right at the top here. I'm going to hold 1 pair of pliers still and the other to just open. I'm just walking it open, right? I'm not pulling apart. Just going to thread that onto the end of my chain. And then same thing to close it back. 1 pair of pliers stays stationary, and then just walk it back closed to make sure you've got a nice seamless closure on that. And you would want to repeat that on the other side with a jump ring and your clasp, and you're done, guys. That's it. Super easy, but a great beginner project. This is one of those that you can take and really run with it. You can turn this into a ring top. You can use this as a charm or a pendant. You can make earrings out of this, and changing up the colors and the wire. There's so many different options with this, but a great kind of jumping off point if you've never worked with wire before. The artistic wire is very forgiving. So I think you'll really, really enjoy using the artistic wire and your favorite beads to create these. I'm going to turn you around and show you what it looks like hanging, and then we will go our separate ways for the day. But I want to thank all of you for joining me today for this fun little project. It was kind of a short one, but you know, I always tell my students, like, beautiful jewelry does not have to be labor intensive, and it doesn't have to be super hard. So there's nothing wrong with instant gratification, and this is definitely one of those. So you can get a good look at what it looks like hanging, which is super, super cute. Right? You could even do another wrapped loop here on the bottom if you wanted to and hang things from it. I'm all about dangles and movement in jewelry. So you really can take this and do a lot of different things with it, right? You could add another wrapped loop here and, you know, go really crazy with it. Also want to mention really quick before we go, if you're not comfortable with the wrapped loop, you absolutely can just bundle, right? Do a 3-wire wrap bundle and then just use a large jump ring instead of a wrapped loop. So I don't want you to feel like if you're not quite to the point of the wrapped loop yet, that's okay. You don't have to be to still be able to make this pendant. Just use a jump ring instead of a loop to be your connection, right? It may take 2 jump rings, but still completely doable. Just do whatever you're comfortable with, right? And get some great results. Super cute, perfect for spring. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you have enjoyed this class. I really appreciate you coming to be with me. I'll be with you guys again this Saturday with another fun project and more projects in the future. So thanks for joining me. I will see you guys again soon. Bye, guys.